Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. I am certain you bring your questions, your group question with you. Could I see hands before I call the groups where you are presenting the group, 9 groups, who will be asking the questions for the microphone to define where the groups are? Can I see hands first? Yep, okay. Thank you. So may I kindly remind you to please ask one question, short and sweet. Thank you. So could I call group 1?
Hi, good afternoon. Group 1's question is, how can we foster international, multi-sectoral cooperation across churches, governments, and people's organizations to put in place safeguarding standards and processes for the protection of women and vulnerable persons in person and online?
Who do you ask? Maybe anyone from the speakers? Please.
Simply, how do we foster international cooperation to defend women in migration, trafficking, whatever, in person or online? Remember what I said, shine your eyes. And if we shine our eyes, we'll be able to also, do I say shine your ears? That when we listen and we have our eyes open, we'll be able to know what is happening around. I was just telling Sister here that when the invasion of Ukraine happened, I would just sit in front of the television and tears would be coming out. She asked me, do you know any Ukrainian? I said, no, but it was a horrible thing that happened, and it's still happening. But what can I do? What can we do? Unless we support people who are fighting like Talita Kum quietly and helping people, unless there are groups around in the US where people go to the borders to go and help people, or sometimes people donate because they can't go in person. There are various things we can do. We find it online, but we also find it in person, because I know in my country and in many countries around, there are people working quietly. And unless we can do that, if we are waiting to see what government can do or what, nothing may happen. But it's to listen, to hear, and to have that heart of the Good Samaritan to reach out. I believe that's the only thing we can do. But when we sit on the fence, nothing will happen.
I can add, I think it is to spread a true information and really to listen to good sources. It helps because sometimes, for example, yes, I identify with Ukrainians. This is so important. When we are victim, we feel victims. And it is so important that nobody, no, at least not nobody, but somebody who's in safeguarding and all these things, that not saying this is a normal conflict between two neighbors' countries. And when you feel really, you know, your houses, everything is destroyed, and you are in conflict only because you're a neighbor of a potent imperium. This is where we really, for example, here I feel safe. I can say, of course, every government has weaknesses and maybe could have been different, I don't know. But now I tell the truth, we are victims of this power, yes. And this is one, to spread a good information, also that we are educated, that we understand what is happening. And then you are doing this also helping refugees, migrants from different countries, not only of Ukraine, but many, many women and men said how helpful it was for them that they were accepted and heard. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add this about the networking and collaboration. This is our strength as a Catholic institution, organization. We do a lot of collaboration and networking, not even the Christian denomination, but also other interfaith based group that we work at the same level. And I will invite you, I'm sure many of you in this forum also work in this issue or this field, that we can collaborate, we can work together for the cause. And this is the platform or forum that we can collaborate each other. Because without collaboration, without networking, we cannot do it alone. We as an institution, as a network of institution of Catholic sisters, we can only do little. But expanding our effort, our connection, our networking, we can do it better. We do have this African proverb that we always use. I did mention about we are network of networks. In African proverb we say, when the spider web unite, we can tie up a lion.
Thank you. Can I call group 2?
This is a question originally from Claire Watkins, who's a member of our group. So we've been talking about experiences in your lectures. We've been talking about experiences of women in the front lines. And what if our theology as a Catholic Church, what if our theology would be, how different would our theology be if it would be centered on experiences of women? Our gender theology would be centered on the experiences of women, unlike how it is being portrayed traditionally now, where we think about a theological view of gender is about what is ideal. God created male and female. But what if we looked at it from the perspective of experiences, from the ground up? How different would our theology on gender be?
Maybe we need to try, and then we will see how will be our theology. But the first word that came to my mind is our theology would be more, how do you call it, incorporated? How can we say it? Yes. Mm-hmm. And holistic. And what would you say?
Thank you. Can I call group 3?
But maybe sisters want to.
Sorry.
No?
Hello. Our question from Group 3 was for Sister Veronica. We talked quite a lot about empowering women to use their voices to act in leadership as women, so not to step into leadership roles and behave as men would act in leadership roles. So our question for you is, from what you've learned and experienced, do you have any advice or recommendations about how to empower women to use their voices as women in leadership roles? Thank you.
I love that. I want to say that as women, let's not hate men. I don't hate men, no. I like men. And And on the African continent, we say my brother. The person may not be from your area. There are works I do. Unless I have men behind me, I will not succeed. I don't want to go into them here. But we call some of them contacts, because in the church, especially Catholic Church, the priests, the bishop, the cardinals, the castory, but unless you have some contacts that can help, that can only make a phone call and say, do this, you won't get anywhere. So what is my advice? Make friends with the right people. And give information, the right, the correct, the truthful information. And I'm not saying just for men, even for women, always give the truth. There may be different layers of it, but give the truth. In one case that I worked on, even the sisters were very smart. They were taping discussions with their bishop. They were doing so many things that nobody knew they were doing, and they were sending them to me. And I was sending them to the contact. And so the contact knew everything about the case. So when the time came, all he did was a phone call, and the thing was resolved. It took almost 2 years, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call group 3? Oh, sorry. 3? 4. Thank you. Any group 4? Anyone from group 4? Okay. So group 5? Thank you.
Our group, we did make friends with one another. So. The thread that went through all the presentations was summed up by our group with the word fear. It was fear within the human soul, fear of losing identity, and fear of speaking out. So the question that we came up with was, how do we as a church address the issues in the church to perceive gender issues more effectively, with greater compassion and understanding, especially from men, clergy, and lay?
Again, I will elaborate that our institution is a Catholic Sisters-led network, but we also invite men, and this is what we become more stronger in our network. We invite our brothers to join our network because we cannot do it alone. We need to invite them. In the areas where we are, we also invite the Catholic Bishop Conference in order for us to do the grassroots, the activities. Without collaboration with men, especially the church, the priests and the brothers, we cannot do it alone. So include them in the decision making, especially when the voices of the survivors surface. We really need to lead in this work. So as a women, we also empower women, our leaders, to really give voice. And many of our colleagues or conference in the church diaspora, we are growing in numbers. Our brothers also collaborating with us So I think we can do it. And like I said, we all need to work together. Invite them in any decision making. Thank you.
I want to add that I feel something went wrong somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know my congregation, we worked mostly with women, with young girls. But now we have decided, at least on the African continent, to start opening schools, especially the primary schools and secondary, for both boys and girls, because I feel something is missing in some of the education of men, boys. I'm sorry to say that. I also feel in the seminaries, I'm not sure how many of the seminaries have women teaching and teaching. Maybe out here is happening, but I think at home that we are able to see ourselves as equals, but with different areas of work. I don't want to be a priest. I'm not fighting to be a priest, but I want to make presentation that is meaningful in the society. And I don't have to be a priest for that. And the priests do not have to be a woman for what they are doing, but that we can collaborate together and work respectfully, knowing that we each have our dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Group 6.
Hi. Group 6 question was the sister Teodora, and the question is, what would our solidarity with your work look like?
I tried already to say about it before. If I maybe repeat myself, the most important is that you do not forget about us, because the war is lasting already more than 3 years. Everybody is tired, also Ukrainians. Me personally, I cannot see more news. It destroys. But it is so important that the world reminds and remember that this country is fighting, and really fighting for existence. Not for resources, for existence. And the prayer is very important, because I think only God knows how to resolve this situation. We do not see exits, we do not hope on brave men, but we really hope that God shows us the correct way. And about the information we told, and be patient also with our refugees. We are not all perfect. We are big folk with different sides. I live now in Germany, and sometimes people are unsatisfied. Oh, these Ukrainian refugees, we give you everything and this and that. This is one part of human being. Many of Ukrainians are still in their country. They don't want to leave, they don't want to hide, not to flee, they want to defend. And we need really your support, very natural, human, sometimes financial. Thank you very much.
Group 7.
So our group, it actually follows on beautifully from what you've just said, Sister. We discussed at the beginning of our session around each presentation that you shared about the lived experience and the stories. They were really rich and challenging to hear at times. And I suppose then we went sort of full circle. And the question we have is, we ask, where are the further signs of hope?
in all the situations.
There is always a hope. There is always a hope. That's what we also advocate for the women that we work with. They're being empowered. I did share the stories this morning, how survivors came alive, stand out. There's hope. We never surrender. There's a resiliency is important to our work. We don't promise, but we act on it. How do we do this? How do we act to become for advocate of hope in action? We do have training for the survivors. We do the education. We do have training for the survivors for them to become resilient and to be advocate. Now the Survivors Initiative Network is coming alive for them to be also voice for the hope. So this is how we can also do as a Talita Kum, as a network for the people that we work with, is to give hope by action. You show them how to become resilient, give them power to be empowered, little things what they can do. Like I shared earlier, one person already became a chef, but she was desperate and said, I don't have any more energy, I don't have life. But when we accompany her, there's hope. So these are the stories that we share. Thank you.
For me, in migration, the sign of hope is being able to work with individuals and groups who are trying to migrate. I think when I visited the Philippines with UISG executive, we had a meeting there. The Sisters of the Good Shepherd, they had some centers, and maybe some others too, centers where people can go to if they are migrating, and to help them to see if the place is a good one. That's collaboration and helping individuals. The other one is to discourage people, if you can, to help them find something to do within the country instead of moving out. Another way is giving the sign of hope through the church as well as the government, because there are places where the government have opened in many countries where they can also find a place to train, to have skills. And most especially religious priests and sisters are doing that. It's just to create places where people can get skills and find job or create jobs for them, like people doing beads and shoes and all kinds of things that they can sell and get something for their daily living. The question, though, for me is, if you are given a sign of hope, then make it real hopeful. And make it Christians, because sometimes people tend to choose some group against the other. It's to have it across board. Thank you.
And I want to answer with one symbol. When after attacking Chernihiv is a city in the north of Ukraine, 100 kilometers from Kiev, where our sisters are working. And after 40 days, the city was full of attacks and missiles and bombings. And after that time, I arrived to this city. It was not occupied, but it was almost the half destroyed. And when I entered to one family and I saw this house. It wasn't house, it was like the metal, I don't know, something. And the woman and man living in garage for the car, and close to their house is a beautiful garden. No, so beautiful, with all green leaves and and flowers and vegetables. And I was so shocked because it was so contrasting. It was everything destroyed and life, And then I asked this woman, sorry, how can you plant all this garden in this situation? And she said, sister, this is my hope. The life, we need to fight for life among the deaths, inside of death, yes. And she said, and it is so important every day to choose life. And it was the lesson from very simple woman to whom I arrived to help her as a psychologist. And with this lesson, I went to my home and I wear it in my heart. We need to choose life also among all this destruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I call Group 8?
Thank you, sisters. Our group was very struck by the power of the stories that you shared that gave a face to these violent situations. They weren't just statistics, but they were stories. And I'm going to guess that these stories were shared because people trust you to listen to them and then share their stories with us. So given the disruptions that war and trafficking can cause, changes in everything, including loss of trust in systems, what have you developed and what could we develop to bring this sense of trust and a safe place for people to share their stories and make a step in their own healing? Thank you.
Our work is not easy. Trust is very important. Listen, our heart. This is very important, the key in order to survive, in order to work for the people. We also human, but we also carry them. So important is really to be prepared, the skills, how to accompany people, especially the survivors and victims. And many of you have experienced this, I'm sure. Once as the victims, they can be traumatized and they can be victimized over and over. I'm sure you agree with me. But in order to give them a trust of victims, how many times a victim been escaped even to the shelter? Because it's not easy. Even in a shelter, a place, sometimes they think they are being in prison. That's why our network is different, it's holistic. By listening, opening our heart, and the trust is very important, the care. I'll give you numbers from our last report, 39,081 survivors or victims that we accompanied whole year. This is the statistics you would like to, but it's not easy. Every single person, their stories are sacred. Like I said, you need time, you need skills, you need heart, you need eyes, and you need ears. And again, even without saying about God, but of course our action is enough. The care for the people, give dignity, give life. This is, I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Group 9.
So, in recognizing yesterday the barriers that women religious face in the church to reporting, and indeed the repercussions of reporting and the fears around reporting of abuse of themselves and their fellow women religious, in recognizing there is a role for the church as a powerful institution with its own deeply internalized structures of power, how can we shift the focus inward to look at the structural factors that perpetuate abuse against women inside the church?
That is a big question. And I don't think it's for us to answer it here. I think everybody here can answer that question. But I would say that, again, we have to cultivate some friendship, relationship, ways of collaborating. Because the truth is that when you tell the story and people don't understand, they don't believe, you are not trusted, then the story goes nowhere. Isn't it true about life? It goes nowhere, but you have to build a kind of relationship that people will know within the church, that what you are trying to do is to bring, I don't want to say equality, but to bring the truth out. Because some of the time, I remember giving an interview, and one of our bishops, I will not name him, and he didn't even know what I was talking about. But he said, we've never heard about this before. When she comes home, we would ask her whether it is true or not. And I said to myself, when this guy sees me, he's not going to ask. And we met. He didn't ask. But I waited for him to ask because there was no point in, I was talking from experience, and he didn't ask. Whether he knew about what I even shared, I am not sure. But what am I saying? We need to work together, to collaborate, and to ask the questions. And mind you, we need to be trusted too. Because as women, at times when we come in a harsh way, we lose the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from Group 4? Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So we were talking about you and also us, strong women here, working in the field of safeguarding. And we were saying that we are trained to sacrifice, and we are trained to take care of others. And it comes with a big price, a price of love. So the question is, what is needed to sustain the hope, courage, and resistance of those engaged in various safeguarding efforts, so of you and us? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Sister Abby said networking. Networking is very important, and collaborating with other people. Please.
Support group. That's why Talita Kum exists, because we work as a team. We have a support group. We work as intercongregational levels in a sense, we can be more power. And this is the key. We can be burnout too. We're just human being, but without support, and we extend it, and to be honest, what we feel. We're not, I would say, machine, but reach out, have a support emotionally, and our network, we have ongoing formation. In order to be a leader, in order to be in this field, we need to be prepared. Again, it's networking is one thing, but you have to take care of yourself, and we need people.
And including new members, yeah, that the field will be larger and then it's easier to work.
Thank you. So
I really need to express this additional, but the power of young people, you can be energized. And most of our network, we also involve young people as well. Because, you know, the power of young people is very important. Their voices are important as well, but they can be can be strategized in a way. So we support each other. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few minutes before break. So anyone would like to ask any questions that have not spoken? Any question? Yes. Yeah. Two.
Thank you. My name is Damai. I'm a student here, the first year student. I think if we can learn from the sexual abuse case, like in US and everywhere, also in Indonesia, the media has a very key role. Because of course, I don't deny that having a good friendship is good sister, yes. But sometimes if we do advocacy, even if it's not easy, we have to do also to put shame on you, otherwise they don't move. But I believe that the truth must be revealed. And the voice of the voiceless, in this case, the victims, because at the time usually they just victim, because when you want to become a survivor, it takes very long time. So I think the media is very important to voice the victims and survivors. Yes.
I am Agnes Reyes from the Philippines. This is not a question, but just a connecting thought with what Leon asked about, is there such a universal standard for establishing the safeguarding, and what Sister Veronica mentioned about the seminaries. I am reminded that last March 2024, the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors has already established a universal framework, a guideline framework. And if we could Google it, it really articulates very clearly what is the expectation of the Church to all of us working on safeguarding. It has also an articulation about what is expected of us in terms of the online threats that's going on. The universal framework, which was published March 2024, for me is a very, very good guide for all of us, congregations and those advocates for safeguarding, so that at the end of our advocacies, as we continue to evaluate our advocacies, we can create this thing we call our safeguarding audit, whether we have followed the direction of the Church or we are working on our own. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you working groups and all the facilitators. One thing to take away from our speakers this morning is reminding me that from the Deuteronomy, I set before you life and death. It is up to you, what will you choose. So choose life so that the generations and yourself will have life. So thank you to all the speakers. Thank you.